Hey there guys, this is Christie Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space, and today I'm doing my update, my first update of the month outside. So it's like probably 12:45 or 1 in the afternoon, and it's June 6th, so it's a Friday, and I'm going to see Tiffany tonight. I'm so excited. And it just occurred to me that I could actually, since I have this sticky thing on the back of my phone, thanks to, I think, Mimi. Thank you, Mimi. Mimi is like funding this channel. I realized, I can just stick my phone to the glass door and film like this. So perfect. I can't do anything any more than that right now because of my health, but since this is nice and convenient, I can do this. And I went ahead and tried to do makeup today, and I'm regretting it a little bit because I'm sore now, but at least I should take advantage of it, right? So I have finished Howl's Moving Castle so far this month by Diana Wynne Jones. Ooh, the lighting is a little rough because part of me is in sunlight. But yeah, anyways, you get it. It's fine. This is, how would you describe this? It's not a romantasy. There is a romance. It's more like fantasy though. It's like fantasy comedy. All of Diana Wynne Jones' books are like weird, and some of them I also find really funny in addition to the weirdness. So she's a bit hit or miss for me because some books I'm like, okay, this is a little too weird. But this one is the perfect mix for me. It's both weird and funny, and I love it so much. So this was a reread. I've read it. This has got to be like my third or fourth time reading it. And previously I've read it once physically, like several long years ago. And then maybe like 4 years ago or 3 years ago, I listened to it on audio because it was Michael Nipp's Patreon book club pick. And I decided it was time to read it again. I don't remember why. Oh, I remember. It's because Emma's book club read this. And I was like, I want to reread it. And I totally missed the book club meeting, but I did finally reread this. It took me a long time because I was reading it slowly at night, but as you can see, I have lots of notes. There's just so many clever things in here, and you really, like, I cannot ever guess where we're going with anything. The plotting, it's like an Agatha Christie novel, but there's like a lot of twists, kind of like that. And it's a pretty complex fairy tale. I guess fairy tale maybe is the best option. There's also like a lot of misnaming of things, like certain things get called something and it's like that's not actually what it is. There's a lot of like mistaken identities and like mistaken apprehensions. Oh, I thought this was this, but it's not, it's like there's a lot of things in disguise, which just is fantastic. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it if you've never read it. It's great on audio, I think, but I think it's a better read physically because there's just so much detail and so many twists and turns but if it's your first time and you're not sure you want to try it, I would say it's great on audio, and then you can always go back and reread it for the twists and turns and the intricacies of the world building. There's a lot of it that I didn't remember because it had been so long since I read it physically. So this was a wonderful, cozy delight, and it always makes me think of Jenny too, because she was the one who first told me, it's a cozy fantasy. That's your genre. You like cozy fantasy. I was like, oh, I was naming off all these fantasies that I like, and this was like number one of the pick. And she was like, that's cozy fantasy. That's what the genre is. So now I know. I really like cozy fantasy. So, okay, moving on. I don't have it up here for you because I would normally use my phone for that, but I'll maybe put it here if I have time. The God and the Gumiho by Sophie Kim. So this is a romantasy. I thought it was maybe, it sounds like more of like a fantasy mystery in the description, but it turns out to mainly be romantasy. Like I would say the main genre, like 60% of the book, maybe more, is romance. So I was I didn't realize that, but Tiffany has read something else by this author, something about the Talons. I DNF'd that book because I wasn't really into it. Honestly, I wasn't into the romance at all. So That one I DNF'd. She enjoyed it fine. I think it was like a 3-star for her. That one was another one that Jen loved. And actually, that's why we both were picking it up, I think. It was for We Love Jenny. This one was more adult. I think that the Talons one was a young adult. This one was adult. I thought it was written better. I was hooked from the beginning. I was interested from the beginning. And I was always like, yeah, I want to pick it up. Although there was a break because it's so popular that it's been like probably 3 weeks since I had it last. And so I just finished the last 20% today listening to it. And when I first checked it out, I was like, do I even want to continue it? Am I loving it that much that I'm really like, yeah, after a 3-week break, I'm going to come back and finish it? Well, I was so glad that I did because the ending was really good. So basically we're following a Gumiho who has a very checkered past. She has literally killed people. Both of the main characters are extremely unlikable in the beginning, and that's partly why I wasn't sure I would like it. I was like, I don't know if this is redeemable. And then the other one is a god who basically tried to rebel against his older brother, who is like the king. And so the younger brother is like super whiny and rude to everyone, and he's the main love interest. And then there's Hani. So his name is Sokka, and the Gumiho's name is Hani. And so what really drew me in about this right from the beginning, I didn't even know it was a romance because the world building is so good. I thought it's a Korean fantasy. That's what I thought it was. Because the world building right off the bat is fantastic and it doesn't feel forced at all. It feels like the author was having a fantastic time writing this and like the world building was her focus. And I feel like that's not something I've encountered a lot with Korean fantasies. A lot of them feel a little bit forced to me, and like the author is like relying really heavily on research, and it feels sort of stilted, the world building. This did not feel the case. That did not feel like that case. That's not how it felt. This one felt like so immersive. It was like, yes, this is the Korean fantasy I've been waiting for. And then it took a turn towards romance, and for like 60% of the book, I was like, it's no longer what I was hoping for. But the ending, I felt like there was some character development at the ending. And that's why I ended up really liking the ending, and I was glad that I finished it. It's probably still a 3-star, but I am glad that I finished it. Like, it was enjoyable. I just wasn't that into the romance because, like I said, the characters weren't that likable. Neither of them were. And I was like, where's this romance coming from? The romance did feel forced to me at the beginning. I was like, what? Why? Why do you guys like each other? You're both selfish and awful, and I don't get it. But by the end, when they started actually changing, I was like, okay, I get it better now. I think this author knew what was coming. You know, she had the ending in mind. But since we didn't have the ending in mind, I was like, why would anybody root for this couple? But by the end, I was like, okay. Other things that I really liked, the names, very Korean. Hani, Sokka, Hwanin. I mean, like a lot of Korean fantasies are like, I don't know, just like not that interesting of Korean names. Like names, I guess I would say a lot of times in Korean books that are like meant for a North American audience, they pick names that are really easy for Westerners to pronounce, and it gets a bit repetitive. It's like the same names used over and over again. It feels like to me. These names, I've never read these names in like a book by a Western author. She is a Western author. Her name is Sophie Kim. So I really felt like, is this like a Korean translated romance? Like that's what it felt like to me. It was that natural. The names that she used, the world building, it really felt that natural. So this is a great one for K-Tropathon in case you're looking for something. I would highly recommend this for K-Tropathon. It's definitely, I think, my favorite Korean fantasy, which sounds kind of weird because it's only a 3-star, but it's definitely my favorite as far as world building. So I would say check it out. I think she's getting better as an author and better. And I really am looking forward to book 2. And there's certain elements that I don't want to spoil that really remind me of my favorite K-drama, Tale of the Nine Tails, which is also about a Gumiho. But that one's a Gumiho human relationship. This one is a Gumiho Korean god relationship. So it was fun. The next book, I don't want to spoil what the next book is because that would spoil things. But the title, I mean. So yeah, hopefully it's just 2 books. Like midway through this book, I was like, I don't want to have to continue to another book. I was kind of like speed listening through part of it because I was like, why does this have to be a series? But by the end, I was like, okay, I'm good with this being a series. I'm also okay with it ending here though. If the next book comes out and I don't get to it for a while, like I'm okay. Like there is somewhat of a cliffhanger, but it's okay. Like it's not like, oh, now I have to wait. It's like, okay. It could end here and I could be okay with this because at the end of the first book, you don't necessarily realize there's going to be a second book. It feels like, oh, okay, this is like the end and it's happy. It's happy. So, because it's a romance, you know, most romances don't end with unhappy endings. So, yeah, I guess I would say recommended if you're looking for a Korean fantasy with like really kind of unique folkloric elements, and it's definitely adult. So that's all that I finished so far this month. So I'll probably come back to you next weekend with some more. Bye. Hello there, guys. It is Saturday, June 14th. Yes, at 2:30 p.m. And tonight, Tiffany's Patreon is having a reading sprint. So I'm really excited. I'm getting ready for that here. But let's wrap up some more of my reading for the month. I've finished, I think, 4 other things or 5. So it was a very productive reading week for me. I listened to a lot of it. In fact, one book that I read like maybe half to 60% of with my eyes, I finished completely on audio, even though I didn't have an audiobook. I just had my phone read it to me. I finally figured out through the accessibility settings how to have Kindle read to me an ebook, you know, that there isn't an audiobook for. So that was really helpful so that I could finish one of my books. So let's jump into it. First of all, we have Waiting Isn't a Waste by Mark Vroegop, which is a book that Joanna in my Bible study was reading, and everybody who was there that night was like, ooh, that sounds like something I need to read. So I was able to get an audiobook copy of it, and it was definitely worth a read. It took me a long time to get into. I thought the beginning was like really general and a little bit boring. And then there was some time at the end that I felt the same way. So it was a little bit uneven for me, but the things that I got out of it were so worthwhile. And it was only a 3-hour audiobook. So when I say like the beginning and the end were like, no, I mean, maybe like half of it was like really, really good. And then the other half at the beginning and the end were like, okay, that's fine. The first quarter, last quarter, were just fine. But the middle was so rich, and definitely worth reading for me. I've been in a waiting period for a really long time. Because of my health, we haven't been able to grow our family, and we've been married. Let's see, we were married in 2011 and it's 2025. So we're like 14 years this month. On the 25th. I think it's 14 years, or maybe it's 15 years. I don't know. 14 years? I think it's 14 years. So, yeah, which is crazy. And it's fantastic, you know, but it's also really hard because we're both still waiting for that time when we can grow our family. So it's been a really long waiting period for me. And this year has been particularly hard because my health took a dive again. I think somewhere around February is when it started, and it's June now. And I keep thinking, oh yeah, you know, for several months we thought, oh yeah, I can get over this. But it just hasn't happened. So, we're working on it though. We're working on it. And so this was really comforting. I like the cover a lot because there's, you know, the lines, and it's like, yeah, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5. That's how I felt, you know, as I was reading this. It was like perfect timing for me to be waiting because I was extremely impatient with this last round of bad health. because and Kevin was extremely patient with it. So it's good. One of us is always okay while the other one is like losing their minds. So, and that's what a good marriage should be like, I think. When the other one is just losing their minds, the other can pick them up and tell them it's okay and remind them of, all the goodness in life that we've had. And so, but for us, the goodness has been, it feels to me like very few and far between. Like out of the last 14 years, I've been healthy for like maybe 3.5 of them, 4.5 of them, something like that. So it's been hard. It's just been hard. So this was great for me. And I wanted to read some of the quotes that I wrote down because I just journaled the heck out of this book. Like so many great quotes in the middles, particularly. So one of the first things that I highlighted to share was impatience with waiting is often about our desire to control a situation. Sorry, my handwriting. Impatience with waiting is often about our desire to control a situation. If we let that go and begin to expect a wait, it won't be such a shock or annoyance, which is totally true. When I'm reminded there's no hurry with my health, because of our plan for how we're going to grow our family, there really is no hurry. We can do it at any age. Right now, just enjoy the good times, recover, refill the well. And when we're going through a bad time, it's probably not as bad as what we've experienced in the past, which is absolutely true. And more on why it's okay to be waiting and even beneficial to live through those waiting times with patience. It's not a violation to pray with faith-filled imagination regarding what you desire God to do. Sometimes I confuse patience with resigned acceptance, but patient waiting is the hopeful commitment to seek God's help creatively and faithfully while staying put. Instead of dreaming about what you could be doing, instead of waiting or imagining how much better your life would be without this challenge, use your imagination to fuel your faith. Page through the Psalms. Look for promises, assurance, or faith-filled statements. Make them your own. Talk to God about them. Imagine yourself years in the future with a hard season behind you. What kind of person do you hope will be true of you? That I clearly wrote that down wrong. That sentence didn't make sense. But what kind of person do you hope you will be, essentially? Dream about what kind of person you'll be because of the lessons learned. I just thought that was so good. That's like a really good way to spend time with God, talking with him, is like, Lord, this is what I would love. These are the desires you've given me, and here's what I would love to see in the future. And he was talking about how it's especially hard to be impatient, or it's especially hard to be patient and wait when your desires are good. They're good desires that you feel like should be fulfilled, and you shouldn't have a problem fulfilling them. You shouldn't be given problems when you try to fulfill them, But he talks too about how like it's incredibly normal to go through periods of waiting with anything, when you're waiting to hear back, to get into colleges, if you're switching jobs, if you're moving, if you're wanting to be married. I mean, like, a lot of the big transitions of life involves a lot of waiting. And if you're just expecting that going in and you're just relaxing and saying there's no hurry, you'll be able to endure the waiting a lot better than if you're feeling really anxious about it and you're like wanting to get a move on things. So I found it a really worthwhile book for me. Extremely, extremely helpful. Okay, I also read First Kings, and I listened to it. And this was about, so in the beginning, David dies, and then his son Solomon takes over, his son with Bathsheba, and everybody loves him. God loves him. It says specifically in the Bible, God loved Solomon. And at the beginning of his reign, Solomon starts off great. He asks for wisdom from the Lord, and the Lord's like, well, because you asked for wisdom and not riches and power and all that, I'm going to give you all of it. You're going to get wisdom and riches and power, and you're going to have peace during your reign in Israel. And he did. But he didn't finish well, and then God got mad at him and he raised up opponents. And so, yeah, really interesting to hear about all that, about all the kings of Israel and how wicked they were. And this book is where Israel divides into Judah and Israel, and they end up having 2 kings. Really, really interesting historical period. And at the end, we get to meet Elijah as well. So now I'm listening to 2 Kings, so I'll update you about that when I finish that. Okay, next, let's talk about Excellent Women by Barbara Pym. Yes, I finished it. Oh, sorry, it's not locking on. So this is an incredibly cozy classic about a woman living in the 50s in England. And she is the kind of woman that is like, she's like a spinster, but in her 30s. So everybody still is like, you'll find the right man. You'll definitely get married. And she's called like an excellent woman. And I thought the characterization was wonderful. It's extremely cozy, like I said. The ending, I don't want to like spoil anything, but it wasn't what I was expecting. But yeah, it's very like, there's nothing that's going to unsettle you in this book, which was really nice. That's exactly why I picked it up. It's exactly what I needed. I'm having a lot of trouble sleeping right now, and so I really just need cozy, gentle reads to listen to at night. And like I said, I'm just listening to a lot and coloring while I listen. So this one was just perfect for right before bed. Mildred is a really relaxing person to be around. Everybody likes being around her because she's like restful. Being around her is extremely restful for people. They just feel good when they're around her. And so, of course, you could say people take advantage of her and she notices and she minds, but she's very polite. I guess the English would call her well-bred. I don't know. But yeah, extremely polite. And she doesn't just let people necessarily walk all over her, but she's there for people if they need her. And she really fills a void in a lot of people's lives. A void for sensible people who care about them. And she's just very open to helping people who need help, who need any kind of assistance. And she definitely has a life and a social fabric that she's a part of, but it's a very quiet life. So yeah, it reminds me actually a lot of At Home in Mitford, which I'm also listening to now. Now that I've finished this one, I'm really focusing on At Home in Mitford, which is a series that in the past I was always like, oh, it just sounds so boring. And that's why I skipped this one too in the past, was like, it just sounds really dull. But I knew that it would be funny and I knew that it would be well written. And so I guess I was just saving it for the right time when I needed it, which was now. So, and like I said, it reminds me a lot of At Home in Mitford, which I'm reading. And I had the same vibe about both of them, that it's just going to be a delightful, funny, relaxing type of read. And yeah, they both are turning out to be that. So really enjoyed it. I don't know if it will stick with me as well, but Mildred really is, she's not a character who's usually the main character in a book. And I really appreciated that. Someone called, Sean, I think the book maniac, said it's a lot like Austen, but a different time period. And I would say that, but yeah, I would say that's true. She's like an Austen side character. That's what she reminds me of, like a spinsterish character in Jane Austen. But it's more modern. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Okay, moving on. We have is this the last one? This might be the last thing that I finished. Let me pull it up here. Yeah, this is the last thing. It is The Hot Zone by Richard Preston. This is quite an old book, actually. I don't know when it was published. However, there was a teacher who was really well beloved in my high school, my public high school, who taught biology. And he really wanted me to do AP biology, which was like a advanced placement biology. It's a college level course. You can get college credit for it. And I just knew that I wouldn't be able to handle it. But I was a TA for him. So I made a bunch of copies of this book and other things for the students. And I remember they read this and it sounded really interesting at the time. But I never got around to reading it until now, even though I graduated in 2010 and it's now 2025. It took me 15 years to get to it. So what it's about is Ebola and how Ebola made its way to U.S. shores. It ended up in Washington very unexpectedly. And it talks, this was really, I don't read a ton of science books, but I'm like, maybe I should. This one was written like a thriller, which is partly why I wanted to read it. Actually, several years ago, like, I don't know, 8 years ago or something, I actually did listen to it on audiobook, but it was abridged. It was only like 3 hours long. And so ever since then, I've like been like, I really want to read the actual physical one. And so it was pretty long. There was a lot of detail in there about like traveling to Africa, to Kaidam Cave where Ebola came from. And, there's a lot of detail about also the lives of the scientists who came into contact with Ebola. And so some of the detail was a bit like long-winded, I would say, but I really liked it too. It felt like very journalistic, like taking its time, helping you really picture the situation and the people involved. So it was like a novel. It was like a nonfiction novel. You got to know all the people and their personalities, and I really enjoyed it. Victoria just texted me. Did you guys see that? Hi, Victoria. This work of more nonfiction is more terrifying than any sci-fi nightmare. It kind of is. Yeah, so I really enjoyed finding about the origins of Ebola because it's not, at least when this was written, it wasn't super well known where it came from. Like, it obviously didn't originate with humans or monkeys because viruses usually don't kill their hosts. They try to have a symbiotic relationship with their hosts usually. But if it originates with some other creature who then passes it on, and the virus keeps morphing and changing, and more species catch it, basically it tries to morph and change to survive the different hosts that it ends up in. And so, the scary thing is you're able to see how Ebola does that. Like the original, they call it filovirus because of the shape of the virus when you look at it under a microscope. Originally, there was just one strain that we knew of, and it was called Marburg. And there was like a 40 or 60% survival rate. I think it was 40. It was a horrible way to die, and it was a horrible thing to go through, even if you survived it. And some people, like, just really horrible things happen to you if you ended up with it. But it kept getting worse. It kept changing. And now, of course, there's Ebola Zaire, which is a 90% kill rate. Regardless of how good your hospitals are, 90% of the people who get Ebola Zaire will die. However, because neither of them are easily transferable through the air, they were able to contain it. But their concern in this book is, what if Ebola became airborne and then we couldn't stop it? Like, what if it was as communicable as AIDS, and he talks about how, like, why the rainforest is often the source of these kinds of horrible viruses that wipe out humankind. It was really, really interesting, very scientific, and I felt like I feel like I understand the sort of fascination and horror with viruses better now after reading this. Like, it describes what happens when you look at Ebola under a microscope, like what it looks like, the actual actions that are taken. Like, there's one type of Ebola that you can watch it it like erupts Ebola into the air. It's like that's one kind that is breathable by humans. So there actually is a strain of Ebola that it's communicated through the air. But thankfully that one didn't turn out to be as deadly for humans as Ebola Zaire. So yeah, it's really, really fascinating. Great STEM read, I feel like. And I would say it's probably good for high school level. It's probably a little too detailed for middle grade, maybe also a little too scary. I don't know. But yeah, I feel like this would have been great for a high schooler actually. So I can see why my biology teacher chose it. So that is it. That is all the books that I finished so far in June. So I'll come back to you at the end of the month with some more. Bye-bye. Hello. It is now July. Hello. It is now June 25th, 2025 in the afternoon. It's 4 o'clock. And let's wrap up some more of my June reading. It's been a good month. I think this is going to be my last update, even though there's a couple more days in the month. And I could absolutely finish like 3 books tomorrow. But I'm going to just do it now because K-Tropathon is almost here and there's so much to do. I just want to make sure I get this out on time. So let's jump into it. Okay, I'm super excited. So first of all, I did finish A Tale for the Time Being with Ruth Ozeki. This was a buddy read with Stephanie from Miss Richards Reads, and I have a text audio message from her waiting, and I'm hoping it's about this so we can process it together. So I wrote a lot about this in my writing journal, like so much. I have transitioned to a physical writing journal because screens at night right now is just not working for me. I do have like night mode, on my iPad and everything, and it doesn't matter. I still can't sleep if I'm like looking at devices. So for now, a physical journal it is. So I have so many, I think it was strangely compelling despite I had some complaints about it. And so I finished it. I don't normally finish books and rate them 2.5 out of 5 stars. It's like honestly like a 65%, something like that. Because the flaws were just too flaw-y for me. But I don't know, somebody else might not care about these flaws to me what seem flaws, or maybe they're just not bothered by some of the content in it. I try not to rate things based on, there's content in it, because we're adults here. I can, even if a book is too much for me, I can recognize, okay, that's my fault. That's not the author's fault. If like a book is too horrifying. I recently DNF'd a book that was like, okay, that's one of my triggers. I can't read that. This one, it didn't have any of my triggers that I was like, okay, I need to stop reading this. But there are some triggers. There's a lot of discussion of suicide and child abuse. She's in a middle grader, so she's not like really super young, but she's not even a teenager, I don't think, at this point. I mean, maybe she's like 13 or 14, but anyways, it's incredibly disturbing. A lot of discussion of suicide, a lot of discussion of like SA, and I mean, it is really hard to read at times. The narrator also, in addition to having gone through all kinds of neglect and abuse, also she has ADHD and she really reads like that. I didn't realize that at first, and to me she reads a lot like Lift from Brandon Sanderson's books, and I was like, in the beginning I was like, she feels very forced, like I don't know if I can read a whole book from this person's perspective. However, I understand why that is now. It's because she's young, she has ADHD, she has all these traumas. So I better actually tell you what the book is about. I've basically just been talking to you about the parts of it. So I initially picked this up because Ruth Ozeki, so A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki, I thought it was Japanese translated lit, but it is really long for translated lit. It seems like a lot of translated lit is a lot shorter. So maybe I should have known that it wasn't, but it's definitely not. Ruth Ozeki, I don't know if she's Canadian or American, actually. I didn't check, but she is, I think part Japanese. Like, I think Japanese is in her heritage. Okay, an American father and a Japanese mother. She divides her time between British Columbia and New York. So yeah, definitely American. But okay, recently a friend of mine who she doesn't like identify with the American right or the American left, but she had said everybody that she knows views Canada as like the better version of America that we aspire to be. And I was like, I don't think I've ever heard that perspective before. Like, I don't know if I've ever been heard from an American, yeah, I wish we were like the Canadians. I don't know, maybe I don't have friends like that in my life who feel that way. But this author definitely feels that way. She keeps talking about how safe Canada is because of the no guns and stuff like that. And continually, Canada is safe. There's free healthcare and there's no guns. And so that is a refrain that is repeated by multiple characters and perspectives, and that's fine. 2 of the characters live in Canada, so why wouldn't they be like, we love Canada? They live there. Of course they love it. So, but regardless, moving on. That was just something that I noticed that over time wore me down a little bit. I was like, okay, I get it. I got it. You could have cut a couple of those out. This book is really long already. How long is this? Like, I feel like it was like 500 pages, but no, okay, it's like 400 pages. So, so we are following a girl who considers herself an American. She was born in Japanese, but shortly thereafter, her family moved to the U.S. She lived there for her formative years until she was like middle school. And then her father lost his tech job in the dot-com crash. And so they move back to Japan, where she doesn't fit in. She is like the outsider. She's too big compared to the other Japanese kids. She's like been fed on American food, so she's bigger. And they bully her a lot. So basically, she is writing a journal to us. And the frame story is this journal has somehow floated to the shores of Canada in a plastic bag along with some other things. And the frame narrator, whose name is Ruth, just like the author, and whose husband's name is Oliver, just like the author's husband's name is Oliver. Very meta, a little uncomfortable because I really struggled with the character of Ruth. I was like, oh, she's like a walking virtue signal. Ruth really got on my nerves. I can handle the girl now because she's a troubled teen, Of course, she's got some rough edges and things, and you just feel like my heart was like rending for the main character now. But the frame narrator, Ruth, I was like, she's too petty. I don't know. Both her and her husband, like their jobs were just like highly academic jobs, and I'm like, are you contributing to anything? Not really. Like, I don't know. They're just like I just really didn't connect at all with them. Oliver was more interesting than Ruth, I will say. He was like very environmentally aware. He'd read a lot. And he was, what did she call it? There's a word for it, of somebody who is like self-taught, like in a discipline, and they know a lot about that discipline. And they've read everything there is to know about that discipline. Oliver is like that. And so sometimes he would say these things that are really interesting, about the natural world. And I'd be like, okay, all right, I can get behind Oliver. But Ruth, like every word that came out of her mouth, I was like, why are you being so like mean to Oliver? She would just like snap at him and be like all irritable with him. And I don't know. It's just, really didn't enjoy Ruth. So she is a major part of why I didn't like this. But moving on, now is writing a journal. And she says at the beginning, this is part of my problem with the book. She says at the beginning that this is going to be a book about her great-grandmother. Her Jiko is what she's called. Her great-grandmother is a nun, a Buddhist nun. And I was like, oh, I'm interested. Okay. And we find out that potentially why her diary, like it's on the back of the book, partly how her diary has reached Ruth through the ocean from Japan to the shores of Canada is because there was a tsunami in Japan. And I was like, okay, I'm sold. Tsunami brings a journal to somebody else, and they're reading the journal, and they're trying to find out what happened to the writer of the journal. And also the fact that it's supposed to be about a Buddhist nun. I was like, okay, yes, I definitely want to read this. It's not really about the Buddhist nun. That was really my complaint, I guess. The book, it starts out and it's supposed to be now telling the story of her old Jiko, but really she just tells her own story. It's like a trauma dump diary. I felt like Now's therapist. And she really like hones in on a lot of like really sexual situations that are really uncomfortable being narrated by like a 13-year-old or a 14-year-old or however she is. And at first you don't know why. It's because she has experienced sexual abuse. But you don't know that from the beginning. And you're just like, okay, why is she describing the sounds made by the call girls who live in the apartment above her? And like, she's having these fantasies of like men kidnapping her and like choking her and I don't know, deflowering her in hotel rooms. And this is all like in like chapter 2. I'm like, this is a lot. I don't know if I can handle this book. And I still don't know if I can handle this book, even though I've already finished it. So it was a lot. I would just say, I wish it was half the length. I probably would have liked it better if it was half the length, but it was really long. Too much of it was narrated by Ruth. Ruth could have just gone. I didn't need her. I didn't like the ending, how it wrapped up. I thought it was very, it was very like mystical and very, maybe it's Buddhist-y. I don't really know. I didn't really get it. I mean, it was like more clear than some modern literature. It's not like you're left hanging wondering what's happening, but you're like, how did that happen? That's not really a plot. That's not something that can happen. So it very much felt like Ruth Ozeki was writing a NaNoWriMo book, and this was the result, if you know what I mean. If you've ever been involved with NaNoWriMo, you know what I mean. Like, your NaNoWriMo is National Novel Writing Month, where gazillions of people get together and write a novel in a month, and they're really bad. You know, most of them are terrible. That's what I feel like this was. I feel like really awful saying that. I hope Ruth Ozeki doesn't watch YouTube. I'm so sorry if you do. Keep doing what you're doing, because clearly some people love it. I mean, they're shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize in 2013. So she does not care what I think. Okay, I feel better already. All right, this was fine. Okay, some of the things descriptors, strangely compelling, because I wanted to find out what happened in Now. I really felt like Now was like a teen that we might have in our home. You know, like a foster youth. And so for that reason, I couldn't stop reading. I couldn't give up on it, even though I was like, I don't think I'm going to like this book. I can't give up on it. And so I kept going and read it, even though it's 2.5 stars out of 5. Weird, convoluted, definitely, okay, compelling at times, frequently disappointing, occasionally cathartic. Occasionally. There was like 2 scenes where I was like, oh, catharsis finally. It just wasn't enough for me, unfortunately. It was just mostly really depressing and like bitter. And you can understand why Now is bitter, but she's very bitter. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's about the gist of it. I can probably end the discussion of this book here. That's it for a tale for the time being, excuse me. Okay, moving on. In the Hand of the Goddess by Tamora Pierce, which I'm still processing this one a bit because we're going to have a live show of it. I liked this more than I was expecting to going into it. I was like, I don't remember anything about this book at all from my childhood. And I know that I read this series more than once, for sure. But it wasn't my favorite out of the Tortallin Universe series. So I really wanted to start here, though, because there's so many lovable characters in this series that show up in the later series that I love so much. This was definitely, like, there was so much to like in this. I think it's probably, like 70%, maybe 73%, something like that, out of 100. And actually, this cover does not lie. The first cover lies. The first cover has a picture of a horse on it, and it looks all middle grade-y. This one still looks a little bit middle grade, but there's actually a lot about the cat in this one. So I think the cat is probably my favorite part of this book, if we're being honest. Faithful is the cat's name. So this book series is following Alana the Lioness, who is the first female knight in her fantasy realm of Tortal for 100 years. There used to be female knights, but now it's outlawed to become a knight for females. And so she disguises her sex, goes to knight school, and the first book is about her first years as a page. This book is about her years as a squire. So she is a squire to somebody who's already been made a knight. And she is growing up in this book. There's definitely criticisms I have about this. This was published in like 1983, I think. And I do have criticisms about it, and we'll talk about that in the live show. We're doing live shows, 1 live show per month for 1 book a month for our Tortalian Universe read-along. So this is book 2 in the first series. So we've had 1 other live show for the first book. We'll have the live show for the second book July 7th, I think. And I can't wait to discuss it. So like I said, still processing it, but it was a strong book despite its flaws. I enjoyed it a lot. There's discussion about what makes war horrible. We get a perspective from a character that I think we really needed in this. Like, it's funny reading from their perspective. And like I said, the inclusion of Faithful is so wonderful. I love Faithful. And then there's some romance happening. She's a teenager in this book. So from age 15 to, is it age 19? So there's some romance. Around age 17 is when the romance sort of comes to fruition. So if that bothers you, know that going in, there is a sexual relationship in here, but it's not like on the page. I feel like it's teenage appropriate for sure. And like I said, I read these when I was like 12, so it turned out okay. But if that is something that you're avoiding for your younger teens, tweens, keep that in mind. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to discuss it further. Just so many characters. It's like the characters are the heart of it, but there is like some interesting like warfare, politic discussion, but it's all fairly like surface level. They're really fast reads. Like the audiobooks are like 5 hours each. So they're not super in depth. In fact, when she wrote these books, it was all 1 book. All 4 of them were 1 book, and it was for adults. So they split it up into 4 and published it for teenagers. And she was like, okay, that's fine. Whatever. I didn't expect this to be published for teenagers because there's like war and there's drugs and there's sex. And she's like, I did not write this for teenagers, but okay. All right. That's fine. But really I feel like it's done tastefully, shall we say. It's all about Alana's emotional development and how she learns how to love other people, because she doesn't really know how to do that early on in her life because she's never been shown love. Like, she's shocked that people actually care about her, because her father did not care about her. The only person that she was like, yeah, he cares about me would have been her twin brother Tom. So, but we see Alana developing relationships. On the other hand, we see her brother and how his trauma developed him. We do see Tom again in this book, and he is like scary. Tom is scary. I can't wait to discuss him. Okay, moving on. Attack on Titan, volume 17. We're back to the Titans in this book. There's been several books like from, I don't know, like 12 through 16 or something, were like about a certain arc that was very political and there wasn't a lot of Titan happening in those books. But this one, there were so many interesting things that happened. Wow, what a banger of a volume. The art is incredibly creepy and we love it. Let me see if I can find a picture of the creepy Titan. Yeah. It's a Titan! Look at this creepy Titan. Like, his chest is just a cave. His face is just like eyes. I mean, it's so scary looking. It's crazy. It's crazy. There's definitely some Titan warfare and so many reveals. And Tiffany and I, we had so much to discuss, we couldn't finish it in one Zoom call. So we're like texting each other more about it. Wow, this was a great volume. I'm really like, woo! I've never left the AOT train, but this volume was like, oh, this was what I needed to be excited to read the next one. Okay. Finally, the last thing that I finished is another really sad one. Man, I read some heavy books this month. This one is Daughters of the Bamboo Grove. I forget who's the author. Barbara Demick. Yeah, Barbara Demick. She's a journalist who lived in China for several years. She was covering the one-child policy era in China, which I don't know exactly when that ended. But basically, it's this really heartbreaking story that she ran across of two twins who were separated by their families because they were trying to like hide them from the authorities. The fact that this family already had like 5 kids and they couldn't afford to pay the penalties for having too many kids. And so they sent one of their daughters to stay with another part of their family, like their aunt or something. So, but they still saw each other. Like it was still like family seeing each other until the, what did they call? It's like a particular agency of China that really enforced the one-child policy laws, and they knew that they could get away with it. They came and kidnapped the girl. The government kidnapped the girl from her family, one of the twins, and sold her to an American family who had no idea. Like the American family thought that she had been abandoned. And so basically this is like a tell-all horrifying story of what happened when the government outlawed having more than one kid. Basically what happened to all the girls as a result of that. It was super sad. It's not like these Chinese families didn't want their girls, although girls were aborted in higher numbers than boys, because everybody was hoping for a boy. Because in China, traditionally, the girl goes to live with her husband's family. So Chinese families feel like the girls don't belong to them. They feel like the girls are going to leave us. They're not going to take care of us. So we need a boy to take care of us in our old age and keep the family going. So really heartbreaking circumstance being now there's like millions more men than women in China and they can't find wives. So this kind of follows that disaster in China. Really sad. And the reason she focused the narrative on these two twins is because she thought she could probably find the lost twin who'd been kidnapped. There's like all these stories of parents in China who did everything they possibly could to track down their daughters who had been kidnapped. Like they didn't want these children to be adopted in America. They wanted to keep their girls, but the government forced it on them, sometimes by kidnapping, sometimes by other means. But yeah, this was one case where the author was like, I can find her because I know exactly what she looks like. I have her twin. I have pictures of her twin. I've met her twin. So I can find her. So she tracks down the lost, kidnapped twin in America and reunites them. And now the twins can talk. And there's pictures of them online and stuff. I listened to the audiobook, so I didn't like look at any pictures that were in the book. So yeah, fascinating, horrifying. I mean, it was really good to hear why international adoption has like lost popularity so drastically. Like it was extremely common in the past, and now it's like kind of hard to internationally adopt, honestly, at this point, because there's like the Hague Convention, which makes sure that the children are not like stolen, like what happened in this case. Hague Convention countries make sure that that's not where the child comes from. They make sure that they're an orphan or that the family really can't care for them. Usually kids who end up being adopted by families internationally have like physical, medical, or mental problems that can't be treated as well in country. And so that's why they're in foster care, you know. But this was the era before that. I forget exactly when she was adopted. I think it was in the 80s, though. But maybe it was later. I can't remember. Anyways, yeah, it was really good as somebody who is like looking at potentially adopting in the future to know why it's so controversial now, because I didn't really know. I just knew that there were some scandals about it, and I'd read like, you know, a couple articles or something, but this book lays it all out and shows why international adoption has sort of developed the name that it has. However, there are ways that you can do it. Like I said, there's the Hague Convention countries. There's ways that you can do it where you know that this child truly was in need of a home and a family. So there are safe ways to do it. There are still children who need homes, absolutely. It's just a lot less common now than it was. So I feel like the author was she was like very focused on the issue of women's rights in China. I think she talks multiple times about Trump's election and how that changed her and stuff like that. So that is a focus of this book, but it completely makes sense because of what happened to the girls in China. So, but yeah, be aware of that going in. That is like a major focus of hers. And sometimes she would make comments and I would just be like, ugh, echo chamber. Like after Trump was elected, she was like, oh, I don't even know if I can talk to somebody who might have voted for Trump. Like, can we even have a conversation? Yes, you can have a conversation. Oh my gosh. Like a little bit over the top in some ways. Like she's nervous about talking to someone who might have voted for Trump. Okay. Someone who lives in a red area. That's like, oh, they live in a red area. I don't know if I can talk to them. It's like, really? Thanks for that. Jeez. Okay, whatever. But that's okay. Everybody has anxiety over different things. So, okay. Moving on. That is it for the wrap up. So let's talk about my TBR. I'm in the middle of a lot of things, and I'm not going to talk about my K-Tropathon TBR because I'm doing a separate video for that. So, first of all, what I'm planning to start right away. Actually, I better show you what's on my phone first, because those are mostly what I'm in the middle of. So, for Emma's Bookish Kingdom book club, currently I am reading Miss Buncle's book by D.E. Stevenson. Finally, I've been wanting to read something by D.E. Stevenson for forever. And I'm finally doing it. And I'm so glad because it's so enjoyable. This is my current read that I'm like focused on, and I love it. It's so good. So I can't wait to discuss this. Hopefully I can finish it before the book club meeting tomorrow. Yeah, this is about, actually I'll describe it more once I've finished it. Of course, I shouldn't talk too much about that. And oh, by the way, I would recommend Barbara Demick. Like both of the books I've read from her book about North Korea is my favorite book I've read about North Korea, and I'll talk about that in my K-Tropathon TBR. She's an excellent journalist, like truly excellent journalist, and I would highly recommend her. I love the way she writes. This book is a little more repetitive, Daughters of the Bamboo Grove. I could have used some editing down, but honestly, if you listen on audio, it's so compelling, you won't notice, except that you're like, oh, I still have like 5 hours left in this audiobook. What more is there to talk about, you know? I had that thought a couple times. So it's a little long, but if you're just listening on audiobook like it's a podcast, honestly, the longer the better. So yeah, it was great. Okay, keep going, sorry. Oh yeah, Miss Kim Knows by Cho Namju. This one, I've got like 6% left. I could have finished this one, but I switched to Miss Buncle's book so that I wouldn't miss the meeting. I can't wait to talk about it. For K-Tropathon, I'm going to talk about it for sure. Dark Order of Durkholm, I'm 50% through it pretty much, 48%. This is like one of my favorite Diana Wynne dramas that I've ever read. It's so funny, guys. I'm enjoying it so much. It's like one of my bedtime reads when I just need something to chill, and I've been still struggling to sleep a lot, unfortunately, but the last 4 nights I slept well. Praise God. This one is so funny. I cannot wait to talk about this. I just want to keep talking about it now, but no, I'll wait until I finished it so that I'm not repeating myself. Okay, and then An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir. I'm reading this one because Krista and from Books and Gems and Sarah from Sarah's Nightstand, who are like booktube besties, they're doing a read along of this, and I didn't know about it until mid-month. But I've wanted to read these forever. I've heard they're really good. I think they're like romantasy with like a Roman history kind of a feel to them. Honestly, I'm just in the mood for reading romance because I'm currently writing a romance story, and I have never done that. And it's been a while since I've really like actively sought out romances, but lately I've been enjoying them. I used to read romances all the time when I was a teen, and then once I got married, I was like, okay, I'm moving on to something else now. But now I'm like coming full circle and enjoying romance again. So excited for a young adult fantasy romance. It's like really thick. This is back when young adult books were like super thick, long series type books. I feel like now things have changed and they're like duology, which I'm also fine with. But hopefully this one turns out to be really good. I'm hoping, so that I can discuss it with them in their live show. We'll see. Okay, 12th Night by Alexine. Oh, I definitely mispronounced that in my library haul. I hold this for the library. This is a teen romance featuring, I actually thought it was like Ren Fair. I thought it was about a Ren Fair, but it's not. It's about, just Twelfth Night. It's like a 12th Night Shakespeare retelling set in the modern day. A nerd and a football star end up meeting on an online game site. However, the nerd is role-playing as her brother because she's noticed when she is a girl in the role-playing game, she gets not treated as well as if they think that she's a guy. So, I'm 76% through it, and I started it like not even a week ago. I'm really enjoying it. I'm listening to it every chance that I get. It's a fun romance. It's very witty. It's definitely echo chambery, but I think that's probably what it's like for teenagers these days. So it's not really surprising that it's echo chambery, but that is a criticism I have. But I'm enjoying it a lot, and I would definitely recommend it. I haven't finished it yet. Hopefully the ending is fantastic, and I think it will be. I'm enjoying it so much. Okay. Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli. This is the second book in the Crimson Moth series. I'm not quite done with it. I liked the first book a lot, other than it was like incredibly sexual for a teen book. I just haven't read as many. I felt like it should be for adults, really. But I feel like there was only like one or two actual instances of sex, but it was just like, wow, lots of nudity, and like I was just like, wow, okay, is this really young adult? Is this what young adult is now? The second book has had none of that, because the main character and her love interest are separated, like a lot of it. So I don't know, it's not as compelling as the first one, I think, because in the first one there was all this world building and the characters getting to know each other and how their political stances are different, and they had these really sizzling conversations about their politics, and the character development was really good in the first one. The second one has really dragged for me. In fact, I was trying to read it physically and I just could not get through it. So I finally picked up the audiobook. And it's picked up. Like, I'm enjoying the ending so far. I've got 25% left, so. I just picked up Cold Eternity by S.A. Barnes again. I'm 50% through that one. I was really enjoying it, and then it got sent back to the library. And then I didn't get it for weeks. I just got it again. I'm excited. At Home in Mitford, I'm still crawling on that one. It's not bad, it's just dull. I'd rather listen to the Bible, honestly, so I mostly am. What else? Okay, that's all I have out, so let's continue. I am reading currently The Anatomy of Story by John Truby for the story that I'm working on. This is my favorite writing book. Like, you can tell how much I have read this book. And he talks about making like organic outlines for stories. He's actually a screenwriter author. He talks a lot about how to write screenplays, but it's totally applicable to novels, in my opinion. And I like having a guidebook as I'm writing, so it helps me spot the problems early on in the premise, which is where I am right now. I'm trying to spot all the problems before I really dive into writing. I have written a couple scenes already, but it's really smart to think your way through the issues that might crop up in your story idea before you write them, so that you can think out, okay, what's the best way to handle that or to improve my premise? So that's what I've been doing lately. I'm like 40 something pages into my notebook, and I've written like, I don't know, 20 pages or something of the Google Doc or the Word doc. So I'm in the process of writing again. It's been so long since I've really written heavily. There have been times when I got back into writing and it just didn't stick. I think I was too focused on BookTube for it to stick for a long time, but now I'm like, okay, BookTube is a nice accent to my life now, and I have time for writing again. I have time for other hobbies again. So I'm also gonna read book 3 of the Alana Linus Quartet, and I love this cover. This is probably my favorite of the 3 so far. I haven't looked at the 4th one yet, but I've had these books for a while. They were gifted to me by the library where I worked, and I volunteered for a lot of years for the teen program, and so they gave me these beautiful copies when they came in, because paperbacks do not last long at the library. They're like 5 patrons max. This is kind of what it seems like to me. But anyways, I'm so excited to read The Woman Who Rides Like a Man, because I know that this one, from what I remember, is mostly set in the desert. And I love a desert fantasy. I'm so excited. This might be my favorite of her books, but I love the first one so much. The first one is so good. Okay, and then here's the biggie, Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. Yes, Victoria and I are reading this. I'm nervous because I think it's going to be quite a commitment, and I'm going to have to like read about the period because I don't know anything about this period. Jen specifically said this is probably not the place to start when you're learning about Cromwell. That's okay. I'll read Britannica. I'll do what it takes. Excited to read this with Victoria. I'll probably listen to it mostly, but I have this copy of it and it's my favorite like floppy paperback type. So I'm excited to dive into this. Truly. I got this at a little free library. Okay, the last one that I have piled here is Imzadi, a Star Trek Next Generation book. This is probably not going to happen this month. Crystal mentioned, I think there's a sci-fi readathon happening in June, and I saw it in her TBR, I think, and I was like, I want to read Star Trek! She mentioned finally trying to maybe read Star Trek. She's like, it's been on so many of my TBRs. Well, it's probably not going to be read this month, so I'm right with you, Crystal, but I really enjoyed Star Trek for a while when I was struggling to sleep years ago, before I found a medicine that helped me sleep. Now that medicine's wearing off, unfortunately. So, but I liked really watching Star Trek at the time because it was just, it really tickles that part of my brain that likes an idea-based story. And I can't believe I've never read a Star Trek book. What is wrong with me? I hope this one's good. I saw online that people recommended it. If you've read Star Trek books and you like have a favorite, can you please tell me what your favorites are? Because I don't know where to start. But this one was recommended online. So, dear! Oh, I don't know if I want to... No, I won't turn you around. So there's a deer. Another time when I'm not keeping my foot elevated. I'll do it another time. Yeah. But I'm not keeping my foot elevated because of like terrible reasons. I actually just worked a lot today, and so my foot is sore. So yay, I was actually able to film some videos for work, which is why I'm filming videos for fun as well, because I actually did my hair and makeup. Sort of. Okay, moving on. Okay, I also have A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir. If I actually want to keep up with Krista's read-along, I would have to read both of them. They're both really long. I probably won't finish them both, but I'm just going to watch the live shows later, and then I'll be fine. I didn't get to my Inklings read-along book, which I'm sad about, but it is what it is. It's fine. I'll hopefully get to that at some point. If I had more warning, maybe I would have planned better, but I was already in the middle of too many things, and I had too many plans, so that's okay. It's okay. It'll happen. Eventually, it'll happen. I forgot. I'm also... For one of my relaxing reads, I've been reading A Natural Death by Dorothy Sayers, just whenever I need something chill. I've also been reading Rhythm of War, like, really fast. Like, I read a quarter of Rhythm of War this month, which is pretty fast for me. I really want to finish it for Book Bingo, because even half of that book is over 500 pages. So it can match the 500 page square on Tiffany's bingo board. So that's pretty cool. Next, I really want to review a NetGalley book. There's 3 or 4 NetGalley books that I have that I never reviewed back when I was reviewing NetGalley books, when I had a review blog. So like 5 or 6 years ago, like a really long time. So I have a couple of them on my phone to get to. Hopefully I can get to one of them. Probably not this month, honestly, but I really want to make it a goal to finish those, because I would love to get back on NetGalley, since I'm reading more new releases now and really enjoying them. And I understand my tastes better than I did back then. But at the same time, I don't like the feeling of having to finish an arc. I don't like that pressure. So we'll see what happens. But anyways, I have a couple books. One Writer's Beginnings by Eudora Welty, Dostoevsky, or The Flood of Language. And there's a couple, Odd and True by like Kat Winters or something. And then something by Frances Hinge or something like that. I can't remember. But anyway, yeah. So 2 YA fantasies and 2 nonfiction about authors. So I'm actually excited about all of them. We'll see if I get to one of them. Okay, moving on. Journey to the Center of the Earth for Tiffany's Patreon. I think I'm going to listen to this one. And I'm really glad. It's been a while since I've like enjoyed a classic on audio, and I've really been craving classics lately, and I just haven't been getting to them. I think because I have all these other plans that I've made. So it used to be all I had room for were classics, and I was craving other stuff. Now I have like all these other stuff crowding in that I'm reading, but I'm craving classics. So I'm glad that it's reversed again. I was starting to wonder if I was actually not a classics reader anymore, but I think I am. I just needed a break, and that's fine. That's cool. Okay, that is it. Woo! That is it. So I'm gonna go film my K-Trip on TBR. So stay tuned. If that actually already might be up. That's probably gonna go up before this. So, and I also have my Disneyland vlog. I'm almost done editing it. With Kev, we went in December, and that's been super fun. Kev and I recorded some audio together after the fact to include in that. It's really long though, but that's okay. So stay tuned. There's exciting stuff coming up. I've actually been editing lately. Like, I've been enjoying it. I don't know what is going on with me. I'm writing. I'm like creating classics. I'm editing videos. I mean, whoa. Okay. I'll talk to you guys soon. Let me know down below what your favorite book was that you read in June, and what you're most excited for about July. And tell me especially if you're reading anything for K-Tropathon. You might have already told me though, because there's been K-Tropathon videos by now that you've seen. But anyways, I'll talk to you soon. Bye!